Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Welcome back to the Bunker Boys podcast. I am one of your co-hosts, BlackoutBrannon.
I'm your other co-host, JD.
And today we're going to be asking the question, are we living in a...
Are we? If we are, wake up.
Up.
Wake up.
Wake up.
You need to wake up. All right, anyways, we're going to start with our BOP, our Beer of Podcast. This is Sierra Nevada. This is a sunny little thing. It is a citrus sweet ale. What is the percentage on this today? 5% ABV. So I've never had this. Have you had this yet?
I don't remember if I opened one.
Okay. All right. It is very orange just from the smell.
Wow. I don't even taste alcohol. I only taste it.
It is very citrusy. I don't taste. This is dangerous. 5%.
It doesn't taste sweet citrusy, but definitely.
I would add this definitely to probably my top 10 beers.
This is amazing, actually.
Easily get to my top 10. I would go and get more of these.
This wasn't even expensive.
No, I actually want to go. I think we got these for free, but
Oh yeah,
I would go and pick these up again. If you didn't know, Sierra Nevada is family owned, operated, and argued over. Interesting.
It's in Cal.
I had to like double read that. Argued over.
Sierra Nevada Brewing in Chico, California.
Or is it Chico? Great
No,
beer.
that is very good. It tastes almost like a lemon water, but not quite.
It's good. It's refreshing. This is definitely a summer beer that I'm gonna go pick up once we get into that hotter season.
Oh yeah, no, that's awesome.
So let's dive in. Is life a simulation?
So did you ever think about life being a simulation? How much did that cross in your mind?
So for me, at least, with life being a simulation, my biggest one was I think I'm the only sentient being in the world. As in, I'm the only one who's alive. I'm the only one with free will. Everything else is a simulation around me. You are an NPC.
Everybody else is a challenge or an obstacle.
Yeah. And for the longest time,
Sounds
and
like
there's
a sociopath to me.
Every now and then I still think that. Like sometimes you do things that make me go, he's an NPC. He's not a real person. There is no consequences to my actions.
Yeah, I gotta say that's probably like that. My biggest thing whenever I was younger is like, wow, my parents are like the only people that actually me, maybe my sister. That was it.
I get that. I honestly, I get that. But so we got to talk about like, what is a simulation?
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean? So simulations by definition is the action of pretending or deception, or it could be the production of a computer or like a model of something on a computer.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what we're talking about as a simulation. I think this is very fascinating because let's talk about the I don't know what you would call it. I guess the implications of that. If we were in a simulation, what does that mean?
So actually, I did think about this for a long time before the podcast was, if life is a simulation and nothing matters outside of the simulation, anything outside of the simulation, does it matter at all? And I actually was like, okay, well, if life is a simulation, how I got rid of my disassociation with it is, it doesn't matter. Just do what makes you happy. Just keep on keeping it, regardless of whether or not.
Yeah, just don't fight the code. Just go with the
code, man.
I'm making that a t-shirt. Go with the code. Go with the code. But that also begs the question is there any real consequences? Because as we already know that we are already small in the universe.
Yes.
Let's break that down into science though, is that in this scheme of the ever lasting, ever expanding universe, very, very small.
Mm-hmm.
To me, I always compare that to atoms and molecules and other things that are very, very small to us. As we know, we technically never touch anything because of atoms touching and going through each other. And it's weird is basically it's just our electrons. What was it? It was, if we had a center of an atom the size of a we'll call it a tennis ball.
Okay.
The distance between the atom and the electron would be about a football field length away.
Really?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Like that, I'm just trying to scale it.
That's how much space there is between the
That's
atom
how
and
much space. So I always think of that being like very, very fascinating when it comes to the science aspect of it. But with that, are we as a like universe just the center of an atom on someone else's grand scheme?
I don't know. That's actually something.
And then with that being said, do we even that, like, if anything that we are doing on Earth, does that matter at all?
That is a question I was not prepared for. Because anything we do on Earth probably doesn't matter if Earth is such a small thing to be part of an atom. Like a part of an atom that makes up something else.
So basically what I'm trying to get to, and just to kind of bring it more into layman's terms, is Dr. Seuss is right. We are who's living on a speck, floating through space, waiting to find our giant elephant.
All right.
This is also where you could technically argue my statement of being, are you calling God a giant elephant? And who knows?
Who knows?
Maybe the Hindus were right.
Maybe Dr. Seuss is a visionary and a prophet.
Let's not say that. He had some questionable things. But let's go into the philosophy about a lot of this. And I think to argue the point, is life a simulation? We have to go to a French philosopher. His name is René Descartes.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that's how you pronounce his name. I'm not French, but I'm pretty sure it's René Descartes, who said, I think, therefore I am.
And that's how he got rid of that whole life as a thing out of his head.
I can't be a simulation because I think.
Yes.
And because I think, therefore I am here, that's who I am. But my argument for that is, I think, therefore I am. I don't know if you think. And no matter what you tell me, you are an NPC.
There's still doubt. There's still doubt.
There's still doubt.
Well, for all you know, I could be part of the AI simulation that you are stuck in, and I could know everything you think you know about me. Therefore, I can come up with a response to give back to you that would seem normal.
Exactly. Now, I am a huge movie and TV nerd. And I think
the Matrix.
I was going to bring in the Matrix.
All right.
So, the Matrix is probably the biggest brought into this argument is, are we living in that Matrix? Are we plugged in somewhere, unconscious, running through the simulation? And if so, is there a way that we can break out of it?
And wake up. Wake up. Wake up.
I just think it's very weird. You know?
Now, not only that, it's kind of weird because how many videos have you seen of like glitches in real life where people reused animations at the same time? Like, have you seen those basketball players that do the same exact movements at the same exact time? Like stuff like that.
It's so creepy.
And so that's whenever you're like, are stuff like that actually part of the Matrix?
I don't know. Like, that is very creepy. I think another great one that I don't think a lot of people talk about is, it's a TV show, and it's one of my favorite TV shows, is The Good Place.
Okay.
Now, The Good Place, the point of The Good Place is that there is a good place and then there's a bad place. At the end of season 1, you find out that the good place that you think they are in is actually the bad place, and it's all designed to have the real humans torture each other. With that, are we in the good place, and is there only a handful of us that are sentient, and we are only here to torture each other?
Are you a sentient person, or am I the sentient?
Or are we both the sentient people, and there's people around us that are designed to try to get us to torture each other?
Okay, that is... And you know what the best part about all these theories? There's no way to disprove it, because it's all part of this. Can disprove it.
Yeah. Now, at the end of the series of The Good Place, if you have not seen the season finale, it's been out for a couple years now. It's on you.
I've never even heard of it.
Spoilers warning. So. The Good Show, or The Good Place. The show, I believe, wrapped up in 2018, so you had time to see it. Go see it. If not, spoilers. It wraps up the show as they redesign the scales for the good place and the bad place. It's a point system that you get on Earth, after you die, no matter where you land, that's where you're going. Well, instead of torturing you forever, because that seems unfair, because let's say you're still a good person, but you bought an avocado that used pesticides to grow, that you had immigrants picking for you for cheap labor, stuff like that. Those are points that are now deducted from you because you just bought an avocado. So they rearranged the grading scale. So life doesn't matter until you die. When you die,
You all go to the bad place.
you go to the bad place, which is what we get in season 1, and that is your test. They then test you.
And that brings us into more the religious kind here in a second, because
Let's jump.
that
Let's go to
also
the religious kind.
So that kind of ties in with the religious kinds, because what if we've already lived our lives? What if this is purgatory the correct?
Yes, but also now that you said that, that also brings up another theory that I've heard is, did we all die in 2012? And this is our test. This is purgatory. We are all just a collective consciousness, as you would say.
Okay. Yeah, and that's what if this is a way for God, Allah, whatever you may believe or do in. This is a way of testing to see how good of a person you have, if you have learned from the mistakes of the past, things like that.
It's so mind-blowing.
Yeah, because there's no way to know until it's all over. And even then, you may never know.
So I want to also tie more science behind this. Is
Okay.
As you know, the human brain constantly fires electrons and stuff in your head after you die. We can still see the brain working
For
after
a short
you
time
die.
after, yeah.
Yes. I mean, we go back to the French Revolution, where they've decapitated people. A theory of one of the scientists who was decapitated was, if I could still blink my eyes, my brain is still working after I'm decapitated, and he does. That's a whole thing. But we get down further where we can scientifically, by scans and everything else, that your brain is still firing after you're dead. So what if this isn't real life? We are all dead, and this is our brains just trying to piece together what
Everything
happens.
that happened.
Because let me ask you a real thing. Since 2012, has there been stuff that you have seen in your lifetime that you go, there's no way that's going to happen, and then it happens?
At least 4 times in the last year.
Yeah, all I'm saying is there's things that happen that you go, no way the United States is going to elect a movie or a TV personality. No way the United States is going to allow the US government to elect someone that we, as a popular vote, did not want, right? So you see stuff like that you go, that's really weird. Or, like, for me, I've dropped cans, and I'm not, this is full seriousness. I've dropped stuff, and it has stayed in air long enough for me to react to grab it. And once I grab it, I can almost feel like a weight drop.
What the fuck?
And it's weird. And it's happened multiple times throughout my life. But it's stuff like that. Like, it's definitely happened a couple times after 2012. And I think there's some stuff that I've seen that shouldn't make sense. But it would make sense if it's my mind trying to fill gaps in memory.
Okay.
So are we dead? And this is just our conscious brain trying to fill in the gaps.
Is this our life flashing before our eyes? Is this the life flashing before? Damn, where's the fuck? I'd rather have a highlight reel. I'd rather just have a highlight reel. Like,
no,
shit.
we're only gonna go through your most embarrassing, your most cringe-worthy memories.
It feels like that sometimes,
right? So I just think that is a very interesting question, and what's interesting as well is no scientist can disprove that this is true. Now there is a, I think I have the note up, but there is the simulation argument, right?
Okay.
So the simulation argument is that the chances of us being in a post-human stage, you would say, is such a, like, very close to zero. It's not zero, very close to zero. Now, on the flip side of that, it's so rare, like very close to zero, that another sentient being is creating this on a scale large enough to run this simulation.
Yes, but not zero.
But not zero. Like, it's so, like, all these chances, and there's a couple more that he runs through, and this is done by Nick Bostrom.
Yeah, theoretical physics.
Yes.
Okay.
And what's really interesting, and he runs through all these scenarios, and it always comes back to close to zero,
Hey,
but not zero.
and you know what's funny? Is the chance of civilization that we have progressing to the state we're at is close to zero as well.
Yeah, life,
and yet here we
life
are.
on planets, it's close to zero, but not zero. And I think that's very interesting.
And that's also why it's kind of like, well, if this is close to zero, that we have civilization as we know, what are the chances that a close to zero situation, or a close to zero chance of this simulation that being created by a post-human civilization? And another one that I saw was, what if this is some sort of like way that our descendants are their ancestors' lives to get a better view of the past?
Oh, that is a great question.
Because what reason would you have for running a simulation this in depth? If you're such an advanced civilization to be able to run a simulation this in depth, what would be the point? Except to learn about the past.
It's very interesting. Now, with writing simulations, the way that we think of a lot of writing simulations is we think computer programming.
Yes.
This is more of your ground, your stomping ground, I would say, of video games and programming.
Oh, I just had a freaking... Okay, so hold up. So I was just talking about what would be the
he just upgraded to the next package that you can get in.
So I said, what would be the point? Well, to see what would happen if certain choices were made. So I'm not sure if you are aware, but the way a lot of AI deep learning technology runs is it basically just guesses and checks itself until it eventually finds the correct path.
Okay.
So what if, in order to get a certain state, this advanced civilization is running a deep learning AI, but instead of this AI trying different things, it's running hundreds of different simulations in crazy depth.
This would have to be a computer.
Oh yes, and it doesn't have to run it all at once. It could be running one simulation at a time. It would just take a while.
The RAM that would require.
Okay, but also in the last 10 years alone, what RAM has been able to do.
Also true.
So imagine 200 years from now alone.
Yeah, because let's go back like 10, 15 years. People thought a lot of the things that we need dedicated to computers.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's really interesting because these are also the similar people back then that were saying the only way to have a computer run simulation for humanity would you need infinite amount. But that's not true. Like, it's going to take a lot of space and a lot of programming, but the universe is ever expanding.
Yeah, and what's freaking crazy is what they thought would take an entire room is an itty bitty box on a desk inside of my bed.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a little tiny box that's sitting in front of us right now.
Mm-hmm. And
this would have been a whole room.
Yeah, and it still wouldn't have been able to complete.
This would have been a whole room.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's just crazy.
And so, okay, so if it's not, let's just say it's not for problem solving. Okay, there's two different reasons. We could have ancestral, learning about the past history.
Okay.
We could have deep learning, it's trying to solve a problem in the future, and it needs basically the past. It needs to understand how certain people make certain decisions. So in order to do that, it needs all of the background information.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now the third one would be for entertainment, video games. So
okay.
So I now, granted, I play. This is way less advanced than what we're talking about. But in the last 5 to 10 years alone, simulation and strategy games have gotten crazy, and I'm talking like you need to make sure that people aren't unemployed, otherwise your cities become homeless people, stuff like that. So imagine 100 years from now how in depth a strategy game is, where you have to make sure that the people there aren't aware they're in a simulation, otherwise you lose.
Yeah, and I mean, the details that go into video games, I'm not a huge video game person, but I've seen videos of game designers talking about how many hours it takes for them to go back to touch up dust particles that you would see in like a house. As you open a door, you would see dust particles in like a beam of light.
Mm-hmm.
And the detail they put into dust particles.
Yes, and you know what's crazy is the visual artifacts like dust clouds and particle effects and stuff like that is not nearly as challenging as creating AI that makes intelligent decisions. But in the last 2 years alone,
We're getting there.
AI has we have chatbots now that can write essays for you.
That's crazy. The other part of this video game thing is that when we think about video games, we think about like the old school video games and stuff like that. And when we come into programming, is most things are hollow until you need to see what's in them. So with that, I could very much say that my theory is my phone is hollow until I break it open.
Quantum physics states that subatomic particles are everywhere and nowhere at once until they are observed. Then they are measurable for that split second. You have no idea where they are or how much they weigh until you are observing them. And the way they actually tested this, I believe it was called a double slit. Okay. What the name of the experiment was. Basically, they had 2 slots where subatomic particles would fly through. Okay. While the camera was observing it, both the subatomic particles created very thin lines right where this. Whenever they were not observing it and they came back later to look, the paper had holes all over it. So subatomic particles are everywhere all at once unless they're being. So the way we think of rendering in video games is in order to optimize, make sure that the game can run smoothly without it taking a huge computer, is unless the player is looking at it or unless the player is directly interacting with it or needs to hear something from it, it does not actually render it.
That's a lot.
Yes. So what I'm getting at is maybe subatomic particles are the part of the simulation that is not being rendered in order to save the computer space unless the people in the simulation are.
Oh. Okay.
So that is a supporting argument for us being in some sort.
That is crazy. and again, this is pretty close to zero, but not zero.
Exactly.
That's crazy. So let's kind of talk about like the religious aspect of that. Is that you can argue that in Christianity, in the Bible, you can pull similarities and make connections to. The Bible has said from the beginning that this has technically all been a simulation.
What was the exact wording they used for that? I don't remember.
I don't know. I wasn't raised Christian, but it's in that.
We're gonna question that.
People are gonna question that, but you can draw similarities to the Bible, to life as a video game kind of stuff.
I can't remember what religion it was. Asian religion. That was. You are reincarnated until you have basically learned
Buddhism.
your lesson.
Buddhism. I guess so would also be very similar, but they have more of a caste system than a reincarnation, which would be more Buddhism.
Are reincarnated over and over until are basically ascended. So
until you see nirvana, and basically until you are enlightened.
Yes, and is that not what a point of an AI that I was talking about? The deep learning AI, where you keep on failing until eventually you get the correct result.
I guess, yeah. What's that one video game challenge? God mode. You have to go and like beat all these games without getting hit.
Oh, it's like Iron Man mode or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Like I heard that's like nearly impossible too. Is that you got to try to go through all these games without getting hit.
Yes, not without dying, but without getting hit. Period. Yeah.
That I don't know. It seems very interesting. And you can draw that line from religion has been saying that this has all been a simulation. And with that regard is God is a higher power testing us.
And what if it's not necessarily like a computer simulation, but like we were talking about before, it is a simulation to deem souls worthy in whatever sense the Almighty and whatever religion you're talking about.
Crazy. If this was all a game.
A way to test, a way to teach.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
That is very, very interesting. And I think it's really interesting because there's a lot of... It's scary to think that this is a game. But also, it makes me feel a little better compared to the alternate, which would be when you die, it's done. It's lights over. Out. And I could argue that I don't believe that when you die, it's lights out. Something has to happen.
Yeah.
Even if it's just reincarnation. Even if it's... There's so many atoms and so many molecules and there's so many building blocks in the universe. The fact that we are made of stardust, essentially.
Yeah.
That shit needs to be reused. Reduce, reuse, recycle. I think
right.
are the building blocks of the universe. So I think that also ties in with the... have you ever heard of a child coming up to their parents and being like, oh, you aren't my real parents. I had parents before you. This is where I lived. This is how I died. This is my name.
This is something that you've talked about wanting to do on the podcast for a couple weeks now. That
I just wanted to throw it in there to see if I could slide it into a future episode.
That is going to be a whole episode in and of itself. But yes, that is kind of in support of reincarnation.
Yeah.
And reincarnation doesn't necessarily, I think, is kind of a supporting factor.
Yeah, you get an extra life.
You respawn.
We are Super Mario Brothers right now. And you just leveled up. All I'm saying is, where are my mushrooms?
And get mushrooms? Get mushrooms.
I didn't get mushrooms. I need these magic mushrooms that make me like super powerful. And just...
No, we got onions and we got potatoes. That's all.
Dang it. Well, I still think this is very interesting. And you break everything down is, what's the meaning? If we can agree that life is possibly a simulation, what does that mean for us?
So, what does that mean for us as a civilization or us personally?
Let's break it both down. So let's go with a civilization.
So the civilization, in my opinion, is a little bit more of a complex one, because what's the point of not just doing every man for himself? If life is a simulation, what does it matter besides just making you happy? What does it matter? Nothing matters. There's no have countries. There's no reason to have anything really besides whatever personally. And so why would anyone dedicate themselves to being a public servant if it's all a simulation? Point of bettering the pixels on the screen.
Okay. Now let's break it down. What does that mean for you?
So personally, that really doesn't change the way I live my life. Because I am doing what I think is going to help me be happy. What makes me happy is making people that I view happy. Now, whether or not they are or not, doesn't matter.
Okay. I see that. I think this is a very interesting question because I ponder this pretty often. Okay. Is what does it mean? What is the point of life? And I think the point of life is the what if. And I think if I had to sum up what my life means and what I live for, is I live for the what if. As in, what if this is a simulation? What if there is a God? What if is such a big question that I live for, that why not live my life the way that I would like the what if to be?
Okay.
So I would say live your what if, because what do you want to finish that question. What is the end of the what if? That is what I think I try to live by. I would like to be surrounded by sentient people who could have conversations I adore, while also making those around me better and bettering myself, not just financially or like monetary wise. I'm talking about, I want to like better yourself mentally as well. Challenge
Be a better
yourself,
person.
be a better person overall. So I would definitely say try thinking of the world as what if, and trying to live for the what if.
That's a great way to put it. I like that. And so after doing more research and after pondering, it really doesn't change your life because you've already thought about it, and you already feel like you're trying your best to live your life how you.
Yeah.
All right.
Now, before I forget, because it popped in my head when we were talking about it and I did not get to bring it up, there is another movie that involves life as a simulation, and it's a very recent movie with one of our favorite actors ever.
Okay.
Ryan Reynolds.
Okay.
It's on Disney Plus if you want to go see it. It is called Free Guy.
I have not seen it yet.
Free Guy. I've seen it like 8 times because it's one of my one of my favorite movies, for the fact that it is basically Ryan Reynolds being blue shirt guy living in a
NPC.
He's an NPC living in basically Grand Theft Auto.
Okay.
Essentially, but he does not know that he's in Grand Theft Auto. He thinks that is his world. And it's not until like halfway through the movie that he finds out that no, you are an NPC. This is all programming, but you are a very smart AI.
Okay.
You're an AI that has gained consciousness.
He's the first time that a game developer has been able to make a smart AI that can make its own decisions and everything like that.
Yeah.
And realize that it's living in a simulation.
It's a great movie. The background, the nod to other video games, the nod to other like franchises. I mean, Chris Evans makes a guest appearance for like a split second because they reference Captain America.
Hell yeah. All right. Well, shit. I still haven't seen that. I was gonna go see it.
I mean, you have to go see that movie because not only does it like reference like Marvel, it references Star Wars, references Disney, it references like multitude of video games, Fortnite, Grand Theft Auto,
all right,
everything, Call of Duty. Like there's a lot of references that I'm not a huge video game guy, but I picked up on a lot of those references.
All right, cool. All right.
So Free Guy, go check it out. But again, the reason that I brought that up is because it is a simulation. It is it possible that we are AI that have gained consciousness? And that's another thing is I've talked to people and people don't understand what I'm saying. And this also proves that I'm the only living person on Earth. And the majority of people I've talked to say they don't recall this experience, but I very clearly remember being like 4 or 5 playing hide and go seek, standing behind a door, and it was like probably around like 11-12 in the morning, and it was like a click, and I just remember being conscious, and it was this very quick, like I knew what I was doing, I knew what happened leading up to that, I knew what happened days prior to that, but it was this moment of
I remember
I am a person, and it was that moment of like consciousness. And I try to explain that to people, and people don't understand what I mean, or they've never had that experience. It tells me they're an NPC.
What if I told you I can't remember a click like that? I do remember, but I remember like he was like 4 years old, being out and seeing it was like police lights and sirens, and thinking to myself, I'm going to, and I do. I don't know why, and that's where I feel like I have the majority. Start is that point on. I do have a couple of like glimpses before that, but that's
interesting. So
it turns out that was actually like the meth house on the corner of my street. Yeah.
So it does sound like you do have some consciousness. Might prove that you're not an NPC, or you were just trying to mimic what I have said.
Or hear me out, maybe I'm just a companion NPC that's supposed to have more depth than the...
Ooh, good point. Am I the main character? Let's go on TikTok and find out, because TikTok has been blowing up about am I the main character of my story?
No, you're not. You're a side character doing filler. Fuck up.
My whole thing with being a main character in your story is that, as we know with Hollywood, is they've been reusing stories so much. And one of my favorite directors, Kevin Smith, has constantly been using the same characters throughout the chronicle of his, from Dogma to Clerks 3. All of them have the same characters.
Okay.
So, and here's my thing, is those movies, not necessarily are those characters the main character every time. Out of the group of characters, they all rotate of
Who's the main character?
Who's the main character of the story?
Okay.
I believe I am always the main character. However, is this my storyline? Is this really the story that I need the main character for? I'm a main character.
Or maybe you're going to be the main character in 20 years from now. You're going to be the main character.
Yeah, I might be a supporting character in your story, but in my story, this is just a stepping stone for me. This is me supporting other characters that builds my character up.
Okay.
So it might help you, but also it just makes my character look better.
What if we are in a simulation that is meant to help creators come up with new stories because they haven't been able to come up with the last 50 years of Hollywood's existence?
Oh, it is a possibility that we're actually living in the year like 2050, and this is just them trying to
come up with new stories.
Yeah, like that 20 show. We're gonna
that 20 shows,
reuse, recycle.
That 20
show. We're just getting into that 90 show. So we're gonna go.
We're getting at that 90 show.
Yeah, have you not seen it?
No.
Yeah, we're getting to that 90 show. It's about their kids coming back to live with Red and Kitty.
Oh. I'm not even old, and yet I'm feeling old.
So they're gonna do that 90 show. Give it a couple years. We're gonna go. That show. We're not even gonna put a 2000. It's just gonna be a that show. And we're gonna go that 10 show, and then we're gonna go to that 20 show.
If they do a that 10 show, I'm going to fucking lose.
You know how terrible and cringy that would be?
God.
But let's do a that 20 show.
Okay, so you know what's funny is like the 90s, yeah, they were kind of weird and strange, but the 10s, that was like the preteen years for like everybody. That was just such a weird time of life.
That's gross because that was like mid to late teenage years.
Yeah, but was anything anybody was doing at that time make sense?
No,
exactly.
We all thought we were dying in 2012. Nothing mattered. I was convinced, like halfway through my high school career, that the world was gonna be over, and I was like, cool, I don't need to apply for colleges.
Did you actually not apply for colleges?
No, I didn't apply for colleges.
Was it because of that or because?
No, it's because I just didn't want to fill out paperwork.
A fair response, understandable. All right, so this is definitely one we can go on for a long time.
We can go on but I really want to know what you guys think. Please let us know on Instagram. Got a Facebook now. Please let us know if you really want to reach out to us. It's bunkerbuddyspodcast@gmail.com. Do you want to plug anything before we head out?
I'm gonna be streaming a little bit more Twitch. If you get, we're talking about video games. We're gonna be doing some video gaming here and there.
He's gonna be playing. He's playing a simulation. So please go check that out.
Yeah, Stellaris is a great simulation strategy game. Would recommend watching that.
Well, where could they find your Twitch?
Twitch.tv/BlackoutBrannon.
There you go. Make sure to go do that. Again, on our Instagram, you can find a lot of our information because on the top of our Instagram and our bio is a link tree. Click on that link tree. It has all of our accounts. You can go and click on it. You can go and find all of us, our channels, everything. Please go and do that. Thank you so much for your support. We're almost at 300 followers on Instagram. We really want to bump that up. We want our YouTube to start bumping up views as well. We're only at 13 followers, but I know that we can get that a little higher.
Yeah.
We're probably going to start doing some lives on YouTube as well. So please stay around for that. That's all I have to plug. Do you have anything else that you'd like to plug?
I think that's it.
Awesome. Thank you guys. Remember, stay locked, stay loaded. We'll see you next time.
Adios.